Hello, everyone. Kathy Rose here. I'm going to talk to you about the astrological patterns for August 2023. We are in the middle of Leo season. Well, it's just beginning, actually. And Leo energy is really, really dynamic, and it's activated in more ways than one right now. So let's gaze at the mandala for a second and just take a look at the energy. It's very extroverted. It's very dynamic. And I hope you notice that on that outer ring, I put crowns in the mandala. And that's because there really is that sense of royalty or leadership that flows with this sign. So let's go into the forecast and let's look at some of the themes happening for the month. We are going to be able to begin a process of looking at critical thinking. We get to polish our critical thinking, and that's because Mercury and Mars are in Virgo in August. I'll explain more about that in a moment. We also get to have an opportunity to do a lot of relationship processing, possible healing in relationships, and possible special connections showing up for us. And this is because Venus is retrograde in Leo this month. And then we're going to continue what's been going on for a while now, and that is to adjust power structures. This is a larger cycle. It is Pluto at the very end of Capricorn, and right now it is squaring the nodal axis. So there's a pressure that's going on with that. If you look on the left side of the screen, this is a mandala I created just less than a year ago. And it was a moment when I was trying to contemplate a new level of personal confidence, a new level of relaxing into feeling secure. And this is what I do. If I'm working on something within myself, I make a piece of art that resonates with that. And so you have this lotus. And I think that that very much connects with what is happening with this Venus retrograde in Leo, which is accepting ourselves, loving ourselves at a new level and feeling secure and confident. So I wanted to share that mandala. I have it hanging in my office on my wall, and I look at it quite frequently, and I remember the feelings I had when I made it. All right, so let's explore a little bit of this Capricorn issue going on with Pluto at the anaretic degree. The anaretic degree is the last degree of a sign, and we have Pluto activating that in Capricorn right now. So all Capricorn issues are under pressure. Capricorn issues have a lot to do with power structures, hierarchy, achievement. And in this case, on a larger level, what's going on, as we know, because I've talked about it in many, many videos, and so have many of my other colleagues, is that we are having some dynamic changes in how power is utilized, how power is embraced, and how we value different expressions of power. So that's going on in the background pretty intensely. Certainly in the United States, there's a lot politically taking place. And we feel this without becoming political, because I always stay neutral. It's all around us. You can observe it. Okay, now we go into the first thing that pops in the month of August, and that is we begin the month with a full moon in Aquarius. And here is the chart for that. On the right side of the screen is the mandala for Aquarius. I want you to do something. I want you to look at the mandala for Aquarius, feel the energy, and compare that to what you felt when you looked at the mandala for Leo. That red mandala that we started with the crowns and that dynamic, extroverted, powerful, passionate energy from Leo. And now look at the Aquarius one. It's very different, right? And that's because they're opposite signs. Aquarius is an air sign in the fixed modality. And the energy flows more cerebrally into the objectivity and into the intellect, into logic. And so for this full moon in Aquarius, which is taking place on August 1st, powerfully activated, launching the month into a very dynamic pattern, we get to embrace our sense of inner power and inner confidence. But we also get to use that through objectivity in our mind, our clarity of thinking. This is happening also square to Jupiter. So there's a lot of expansion between body, mind, and spirit, between understanding how to use the Leo authority. Nobody does authority better and leadership better than the Leo energy. How we can use that, but how we can use that without becoming overly attached, and staying objective, and staying humanistic. Leo can be focused very much on ego, and Aquarius is focused very much on humanity, the humanistic approach. So this full moon is really interesting because of that square from Jupiter, all that expansion around this. But that's not all. If you look at the aspect that I've drawn here in purple, that is a square between Venus and Uranus. And that is going to be exact on August 9th. It's not quite exact for this full moon, but it's in play. Venus is retrograde, squaring Uranus. It's going to be exact on August 9th, as I mentioned, but it'll be in play for about the first 2 weeks of August. Now, this energy pattern is very interesting because it really has a lot to do with embracing your own uniqueness and feeling free to be who you are. The freedom from Uranus saying, relax into yourself, accept yourself, and go ahead and radiate your special uniqueness and do it with confidence, but do it with peaceful, loving energy, not battle energy, not forcing. This Uranus square Venus says, stand your ground, be who you are, and embrace it. It's really quite beautiful. It also says, dare to be different if you want to be different. Dare to challenge the rules if the rules don't make sense to you. Stay unique. And so we get that for the first 2 weeks of August. I love Uranus square Venus. We also have at this time this aspect that I've highlighted in blue, which is Saturn opposite Mercury. And this is where I'm talking about some critical thinking begins. Mercury in Virgo is very, very strong. Mars is in Virgo also for the full moon. Opposite Saturn, though, is saying, use your detailed analytical mind, use the critical perfectionistic mind with compassion, with flow, with creativity. More about that in a moment. There's a powerful statement about that, though. Let me describe a few things that are going to be happening mid-month. I'm not going to go into intense detail right now because I'm going to be doing a separate video on this on August 16th, mid-month. Then we have the new moon in Leo. Watch for my new moon video to be released mid-month. Probably the second week of August. But this is a powerful signature that develops what happened at the full moon. What we have is a new moon in Leo that's going to be square to Uranus. So it is going to activate the Venus square Uranus going on. And that is dramatic originality. There is something so powerful about allowing yourself to be unique and being confident while you do it. Not in your face, I'm going to rebel against the world and I have to be different just to be special, but I know who I am and I'm going to live it with love. There's a big difference. The other thing that happens at that new moon in Leo is that we are going to have Mercury conjunct Mars in Virgo. Ooh. And that is say what you mean and mean what you say, but that is don't be mean when you communicate. Mercury conjunct Mars, especially in Virgo, if it's used well, it can be precision and detail in your communication, and it can be beautifully analytical and logical. If it is stressed or it's working on the shadow, it can be sarcastic, it can be critical, it can be mean. So be aware of that and use this aspect well. And I'm going to talk about that more when I do the new moon in Leo video. Then what we have going on later in the month, August 23rd, Mercury is going to begin a retrograde in Virgo. So this is why all things having to do with Virgo will be very important. I mentioned at the very beginning in the theme with critical thinking. So Mercury begins the retrograde August 23rd. It begins at 21 degrees Virgo. So if you have planets around 21 degrees Virgo, you're going to be activated, triggered. You're going to be receiving this beautiful Mercury energy. It stays retrograde until September 15th, and it retrogrades back to 8-degree Virgo. Now, again, if you have planets or angles in your chart between 8-degree or 21-degree Virgo, you get a powerful wave of special productivity, a moment of beautiful development. Now, if you don't know if you have planets at those degrees, then call me, schedule a consultation. I will let you know. I always let people know when they are going to receive contact from a Mercury retrograde, because it is a blessing. It's a beautiful, beautiful period. If you don't have planets in that degree zone, then you're going to need to remember to just make sure you're checking details, double check appointment times, double check phone numbers, make sure you're grounded and focused, and be very aware of any sort of critical nature you may have. Stay calm, infuse everything you do with love, because that's the Leo energy going on, and infuse your thinking with compassion. Because when Virgo is stressed, as I mentioned, the shadow side can be very critical. It's the editorial eye that sees what's wrong instead of what's right. And that can include projected to the world. It can also include projected to yourself. We don't want that critical side to show up. July 22nd, mid-July, Venus began the retrograde phase. So I already talked a little bit about the Venus retrograde. It's going to remain retrograde all of August. It doesn't go direct until September 3rd. And the degree zone for this particular Venus retrograde, it began the retrograde at 28 Leo. It scoots back to 12 Leo. If you have planets particularly in that zone, planets between 12 or 28 Leo, somewhere in that zone, then you are receiving exact contact from this Venus transit. And that can be beautiful. Venus is blessings and harmony and relationship energy. But even if you're not receiving exact contact, this is relationship development time. This is understanding what value do you bring into a relationship, and what kind of relationship patterns have you manifested. And it's time to have some movement and healing and adjustment if needed. Now, on the right side of the screen is one of my favorite quotes. I had a client who was a very successful, or is a very successful actress in Hollywood. And I asked her during our consultation, I said, you are putting yourself out there when you act. And if you receive a negative review or criticism, how do you handle that? I was very curious to hear the techniques she would use. And she said, I have this quote that is very meaningful to me, and it has become my mantra and my philosophy, and I live by it. And it is this quote by Georgia O'Keeffe, which is, I have already settled it for myself. So flattery and criticism go down the same drain, and I am quite free. And I think that is such a beautiful, powerful quote. I have used that in consultations, and people actually gasp because it is so perfect and clear about how necessary it is for you to settle it for yourself. Settle it for yourself in that you come to the conclusion that you are wonderful, and that you value and appreciate yourself, and that you're going to support yourself no matter what, so that you can be free, so that praise and criticism are not going to control you. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because it very much relates to the Mercury retrograde in Virgo, along with Mars transiting Virgo for the month, and the Venus retrograde in Leo. Now, meditate on that, ponder it, and see what you get. We have 2 full moons in August, by the way. August 30th, we're going to have a full moon in Pisces that is quite spectacular because Saturn is involved. And when I do my new moon video, I'm also going to specifically talk about this full moon in Pisces. So there's a lot of activity in the second half of August, and I'll cover it in that video. But just know we get 2 full moons this month. And the full moon in Pisces has a completely different flavor, but it's going to help you to move forward, and especially to move forward in compassion. So my final thoughts for August of 2023. One of my favorite mantras is to give myself permission to take up space. And I would submit that for your for a meditation for you. Contemplate this for a while. The statement, it's okay for me to take up space. This is so important when it comes down to Venus retrograde in Leo. It's okay for me to take up space. It's okay for me to shine. It's okay for me to feel beautiful and wonderful and loving. And it's okay for me to like myself. It's okay for me to send the food back at the restaurant if it's bad food. It's okay for me to say no. It's okay for me to shine. These are all things we get to contemplate in August. And that also flows back to this whole thing going on with Pluto at the anaretic degree of Capricorn and the power structures changing. It's okay for me to feel my own authority. And it's okay for me to feel equal to somebody who seemingly has more power than I. Somebody who may have a lot of money or more authority or more degrees or whatever it happens to be. It's okay for me to take up space, meaning it's okay for me to project. Those are my final thoughts for August. And so contemplate that, see what you get. All right. As always, I am sending you much heartfelt love, many blessings. I appreciate when you watch my videos. I appreciate all the nice comments, the loving comments that you post. I mean, I really do appreciate them. I feel them in my heart every time. And so I love you all, and I wish good things for you. Be well, and I'll see you mid-month with a new moon video.